Welcome to my tutorial for the crochet sweater top, which I've called Meadow. For this project you will need yarn. I will be using 5 skeins for a size medium, a 4mm crochet hook, yarn needle, scissors, stitch markers, and a measuring tape. We'll begin with the ribbing for the bottom of the sweater. We'll start off with a slip knot, chain 17 plus 3, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and our turning chain is 3, so that's 1, 2, 3. We have 20 chains for the foundation chain. Round 1 of the ribbing into the 4th chain from the hook, work a double crochet. Work double crochets into the remaining chains. Continue to the end. I've completed round 1 of the ribbing. Make sure that you have 18 double crochets across. Round 2, chain 3, 2, 3, and turn. Again, we'll work double crochets all across. Do not work a stitch into the same stitch where the chain 3 comes out of. Into the next stitch, in the back loop, work a double crochet. Continue working double crochets into the back loops only. I've completed the ribbing for the bottom of the sweater by repeating round 2 until the piece measures 29.5 inches. Or 75 centimeters. I now need to join the 2 ends of the ribbing. By slip stitching them together. To slip stitch, I'll insert my hook into the stitch on one side and then into the next side, pick up a loop and go through the loop. Continue slip stitching to the end. I've completed slip stitching the ribbing. Fasten off and cut off the excess yarn. Keep the ribbing for the bottom of the sweater aside. We'll use it at the end. Moving on to the sleeve ribbing. Just as I did for the ribbing for the bottom of the sweater, I chained 17 plus 3 and round 1 into the 4th chain from the hook. I double crocheted and thereafter double crocheted all stitches. Round 2, I chained 3, turned, double crocheted all stitches, working in the back loops only. I repeated round 2 until the piece measures 7 inches or 18 centimeters. Again, for the sleeve ribbing, slip stitch to join the 2 ends together, as you did for the ribbing for the bottom of the sweater. I've completed 2 sleeve ribbings. This 2 I shall set aside for when we are assembling the sweater at the end. Moving on with the body of the sweater, make a slip knot. The foundation chain is 81 plus 3. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Continue to 84 chains. I've completed 84 chains. Round 1 into the 4th chain from the hook, work a double crochet. Thereafter, a single crochet followed by a double crochet, a single crochet. Continue alternating between double crochets and single crochets to the end of the round. I've completed round 1. The last stitch that I worked was a single crochet. Round 2, chain 3 and turn. Into the next stitch, the double crochet from the previous round, I'll work a single crochet. The next stitch is a single crochet from the previous round. Here I'll work a double crochet. So for every single crochet from the previous round, work a double crochet, and for every double crochet of the previous round, work a single crochet. Continue alternating between the 2 stitches to the end of the round. I've repeated round 2 until the piece measures 4,5 inches or 12 centimeters. Take note that at the start of every round, you would either chain 3 or chain 1, depending on whether you ended the previous round with a double crochet or a single crochet. So if you ended the previous round with a double crochet, you would chain 1 and turn. And if you ended with a single crochet, you would chain 3 and turn. Thereafter, alternate between double crochet and single crochet, or single crochet and double crochet. Moving forward, I now need to work decreases, and in this case 6 decreases. I've placed stitch markers along the piece somewhat evenly, where I just gauged more or less how far apart the 6 stitch markers would be, and in those 6 stitch markers I'll work decreases. I've ended the previous round with a double crochet, so I'll chain 1 and turn. Remove the stitch marker. Take note that for every decrease I'll be working double crochets, irrespective of whether the stitch before was a double crochet or a single crochet. So to work a decrease, it's yarn over, insert your hook into the stitch, pull up a loop, insert your hook into the next stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, go through 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, go through 2 loops on the hook. I'll continue with a single crochet into the next stitch, a double crochet, a single crochet, a double crochet, alternating between the 2 until the next stitch marker. At the next stitch marker, remove the stitch marker, work a decrease into the next 2 stitches. Thereafter, continue alternating between single crochet and double crochet to the next stitch marker. I've worked decreases at the previous stitch markers. I'm now at my last stitch marker with 2 stitches remaining. So in those 2 stitches, I'll work a decrease. Then it's chain 1 and turn. In this round 2, I'll work decreases. I've placed 6 stitch markers evenly across. In every stitch marker and the stitch next to, I'll work a decrease, just as was done in the previous round. I completed the 2 rounds of decreases. I then continued to work double crochets alternating with single crochets until the piece measured 8 inches or 20 centimeters. I then worked 2 rounds of decreases. In these 2 rounds, I worked 4 decreases each. So I placed my stitch markers, 4 stitch markers evenly across, and at the stitch marked with the stitch marker and the one next to it, I worked a decrease. In the rounds to follow, I continued with double crochet and single crochet, alternating between the 2 stitches until the piece measures 21.5 inches or 55 centimeters. Moving on to the neckline, fold the piece in half. Mark off the halfway point with a stitch marker. Count 16 stitches on either side of the stitch marker and mark off those stitches with a stitch marker each. Remove the center stitch marker as it is no longer needed. So from one stitch marker to the next, including the stitches that are marked, we would have 33 stitches. Moving on to the neckline, my last stitch was a single crochet, so I'll chain 3 and turn. I'll work a single crochet into the next stitch, followed by a double crochet. Again, alternate between the 2 stitches to the stitch marker. I've stopped at the stitch before the stitch marker. I'll now chain 33, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33. After chaining 33, I'll now join back to the stitch after the second stitch marker. I see that this stitch is a single crochet, so I'll work a double crochet into that stitch. It's easy to recognize the single crochets from the double crochets. First of all, the double crochet is usually a bigger stitch at the top. The single crochet is a smaller stitch, and the single crochet usually has a little hole into the stitch, which is easy to recognize. So into that stitch, I'll work a double crochet to join. Thereafter, a single crochet, and continue alternating between the two stitches to the end. I'll end with a single crochet, chain 3, and I'll continue with single crochets alternating with double crochets to the chain that we've chained in the previous round. Into the chain, I'll continue alternating between single crochet and double crochet. I've double crocheted and single crocheted along the chain and to the end of the round. We've now created the neckline. Here on after, we'll be continuing with the back of the sweater. I've continued with the back body, alternating between double crochet and single crochet. Fold the piece at the neckline. Measuring from the shoulder fold and not the neckline, the piece now measures 13.5 inches or 35 centimeters. We will now work 2 rounds of increases. I've placed 4 stitch markers evenly across. At each stitch marker, I'll work 2 stitches into 1. My last stitch was a single crochet. I'll chain 3 and turn. Into the next stitch, I'll work a single crochet and a double crochet. Irrespective of the stitch that I've worked before, I'll continue with the stitch pattern following the previous round. So in the previous round I worked a single crochet, I'll work a double crochet, followed by a single crochet and a double crochet. Continue to the next stitch marker. I'm at the stitch before the stitch marker. I'll remove the stitch marker. I've worked a double crochet here, so I'll work a single crochet and a double crochet into the one stitch. The stitch from the previous round is a single crochet. Into that stitch, I'll work a double crochet, continuing with single crochet, double crochet, alternating between the 2 stitches to the next stitch marker. I'm at the stitch before the stitch marker. I'll remove the stitch marker. I've worked a double crochet into this last stitch, so I'll work a single crochet and a double crochet into the one stitch, My stitch from the previous round is a single crochet, so I'll work a double crochet. Continue alternating between the 2 stitches to the last stitch marker. I'm at the last stitch marker. Remove the stitch marker. My last stitch was a double crochet, so into the last stitch I'll work a single crochet and a double crochet. Then it's chain 1 and turn. Again, I'll work another round of increases. I've placed 4 stitch markers evenly across, and into those stitches I'll work 2 stitches just as I had done in the round before. I've continued along the back body, working double crochets and single crochets, alternating between the 2 stitches until the piece measured 17 inches or 43 centimeters. At that stage, I worked 2 rounds of increases. For these 2 rounds, I increased by 6 stitches. So I marked 6 points with my stitch markers, and at those points, I worked 2 stitches into 1. I continued working double crochets alternating with single crochets until the piece measured 21.5 inches or 55 centimeters, measuring from the shoulder fold to the end. Now that we've completed the back body, we can fasten off and cut off the excess yarn. Moving on to the armhole. From the shoulder fold, measure 7.5 inches or 19 centimeters and mark that off with a stitch marker on both the front and back panels. Working on the wrong side, we'll now stitch up the side seams from the bottom to the stitch markers. Seam up the sides using the mattress stitch. Continue to the stitch marker where you'll end off and repeat on the other side. Moving on to the sleeve, attach yarn to the underside of the armhole and pick up a loop. Single crochet across evenly. I've single crocheted all around the armhole. I'll slip stitch into the chain 1 to join. Chain 3. Single crochet, double crochet, repeat alternating between the 2 stitches. In the rounds to follow, I alternated between single crochet and double crochet, and I slip stitched at the end of each round to join. The sleeve now measures 18 inches or 46 centimeters. I fastened off and left a long tail. Working with the ribbing and the wrong side facing out, I'll insert the ribbing into the sleeve. You'll notice that the sleeve is much bigger than the ribbing. I've also threaded my needle, seam the ribbing together with the sleeve. Because the ribbing is a lot smaller than the sleeve, so skip a stitch and move on to the next one. So for every stitch from the sleeve, skip one and move on to the next one. I'll skip that one, move on to the next one. Skip a stitch, move on to the next one. I've attached the ribbing to the sleeve. Do the same for the other sleeve and ribbing.